Good evening, Dungeon Masters. I'm Bahr. In my 27 years of dungeon mastering, I've played a lot of games. Some of the systems I've tried include my middle school mainstay, Big Robots Cool Starships, ridiculous micro RPGs like Honey Heist, and the almost Fallout licensed rule set of GURPS. But the RPGs I'll talk about in this video are either some of my favorite to play, or games that have radically altered the way I think about D&D, even if I seldom play them. If you've followed my channel for a while, you've likely noticed I adapt a lot of old school sensibilities to the way I play 5th edition. Between learning to Dungeon Master as a little kid while AD&D 2nd edition was in print, and being a fan of the old school revival or renaissance or Rococo, whatever it's called, my background has largely shaped the way I perceive the game. However, Chris McDowall's OSR entry Into the Odd spurned off a niche ecosystem of odd-likes in the OSR movement. This particular subgenre of rule sets answers the question nobody was asking, but probably should have been. What if the best parts of old school D&D were compressed and exaggerated? Attacks always hit, your limited inventory essentially dictates your class, and character background, abilities, and starting equipment are all derived from just a few quick dice rolls. Character creation is lightning fast, combat is as deadly as it is narrative focused, and the rules are highly modular, leading to some fantastic iterations of this family of games. While Into the Odd is itself a phenomenal example of RPG game design, the game's offshoots have incredible standouts as well. The gritty, dark fantasy entry Cairn is great for introducing traditional D&D players into this subgenre, and also what I use for corporate team building. Liminal Horror is great if you're looking for an X-Files or SCP Foundation game, and Out of Time fills the cyberpunk niche by using days left alive instead of gold pieces as currency. However, by far, I believe the standout representation of these, and what might be my absolute favorite RPG, is Mausritter. In Mausritter, players create fantasy-style mice in a modern non-magical human world, ravens have scrying circles in the trees, escaped lab rats from Nim have psionic powers, magic is dangerous and can blow your whiskers off, cats are far more terrifying than any ancient red dragon could hope to be, and humans drink their pumpkin spice lattes in their work-from-home countryside cabin and have no idea any of this is going on. What really seals the deal, though, is the Mausritter Game Master's Toolkit. In less than a dozen pages, the RPG details a system for rapidly scaffolding, a game world to play in, factions who run the show within that game world, dungeons stocked with maps and treasure, and a wonderful treasure generation system that would utterly embarrass Chris Perkins and WotC designers with its elegance. If you're looking for a game that perfectly blends Mother Goose, The Witcher, and Game of Thrones, Mausritter is for you. The PDF is free to download, but trust me, you'll want the box set. Sean McCoy's Mothership is the epitome of game design. McCoy's experience as both a graphic designer and a board game and card publisher helped him understand very clearly what Mothership's core mission was and deftly eliminate any and all mechanics that got in the way of reinforcing that narrative goal. Players use their character sheet, which is designed like a flowchart, to create working-class sci-fi characters who have been caught up in a terrifying situation. The rule set supports stories that land somewhere between Blade Runner, Alien, Ex Machina, Stalker, Terminator, and The Thing. In Mothership, the only thing more deadly than outer space are the monsters you encounter there and the dystopian corporate business interests which have left the characters for dead. The game's saves, stress, and panic system reinforce how characters can only handle so much stress until they finally snap at the worst possible moment. Another YouTuber, Vi, at Collabs Without Permission, did a phenomenal overview of the system, which I'll link to at the end of this video. Also, its first edition just raised under $1.5 million on Kickstarter, yet the PDF is free to download from their website. Oh, and one last thing, the Mothership RPG has a hacker supplement which expands the game's rules and includes how to breach security systems and illicitly download protected data from soulless corporations or alien computer systems. But if you want to keep prying eyes away from your own web traffic, this video's sponsor, Surfshark VPN, can help. Surfshark can encrypt your data with its virtual private network and mask everything you do online. Even better, Surfshark's network allows you to change your IP address and therefore help you get around geo-blocking software some companies use to stop foreigners from viewing their content. Did you know that Netflix has a different video library in every nation? Surfshark will let you see content that is blocked in your country or shop around from other nations for the same product and service. I've purchased airline tickets for 10% cheaper while shopping from German IP addresses. Surfshark VPN works on all your devices, including Windows, Apple, Android, iOS, and even Linux. Get Surfshark VPN at the link in the description and use the promo code Baron when you sign up for 85% off and 3 months extra for free. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring this video. I've got a whole video dedicated to describing why Fate Core is so frustrating to me. Fate Core, the best RPG everyone rightfully hates. And I'm including it in this list not because I feel like the game is good, but because the lessons I learned about role-playing from this game are some of the most valuable lessons I've picked up in my tenure as a dungeon master. In all honesty, the rulebook is written with such a deep lack of self-awareness that it reads almost like browsing technical documentation for an internal corporate business process. With that said, however, Fate Core's unwritten thesis statement changed the way I will roleplay forever, even if it took me reading the rulebook 6 times and over 6 months of playing the game just to figure it out. The less potent the character's narrative, the less likely the character is to succeed. Fate Core forces players to understand the aspects of their character so deeply, as well as understand the aspects of the game world, that players can create surprising connections between seemingly unrelated topics, much the same way late-night comedians write their monologue jokes by finding hilarious connections between unrelated news articles. With that said, Fate Core might be one of the only rule sets I've seen that is truly great for any RPG story or genre you can think of, from historical to sci-fi to cyberpunk to nursery rhymes or even World War I Zeppelin biplane diesel punk. If your players are interested in doing some improvisational acting, stand-up comedy, or enjoy a game with heavy amounts of narrative focus, Fate Core is absolutely worth exploring, but players who just want to drink beer, eat pretzels, and crack goblin skulls are definitely going to struggle with it. Alan Bahr's Tiny D6 series contains a number of closely related RPGs with nearly identical core mechanics. Tiny Dungeon, Tiny Wastelands, and Tiny Frontiers are some of the dominant games in the series, but there is probably a version that covers a genre you're interested in. Even the entry Beach Patrol covers Miami Vice and Baywatch-style games. What I love most about the Tiny D6 series is how characters are highly modular and are created just by picking a handful of abilities and lineage or backgrounds. The dice mechanics use a straightforward 3d6 dice pool and simplifies combat mechanics you'd expect from most RPGs, which are equally narrative as they are tactical. You can be up and running with a new character in under 5 minutes, easily teach the game to any child old enough to read, and still have enough meat and bones for a bit of crunchy character advancement. The rules for each system are also highly cross-compatible, so it's entirely possible to start play in a Tiny Frontier game with characters who crash land a spaceship in a post-apocalyptic world supported by Tiny Wasteland, and stock the world's monsters from the Tiny Dungeons bestiary. If you ever wanted a rule set for a family beach vacation and needed to rip the dice out of the Airbnb's heavily worn out board games, check out the Tiny D6 ecosystem. Lastly, I want to briefly make note of a few more RPGs that have shaped how I think about gaming in a positive way. West End Star Wars RPG does a great job of offering straightforward character creation, streamlined yet crunchy combat mechanics, and rules for allowing players to decide when a Star Wars cinematic moment is warranted. The Force dice mechanic allows them to fudge the dice heavily in their favor, like 5th edition's inspiration mechanic, but well on steroids. The game also has tons of published material, so getting toolkits, adventures, and inspiration is extremely easy to do. Next, Burning Wheel feels like older editions of Dungeons & Dragons, but asks far more questions about a character's background, ideas, and goals. Since Burning Wheel is so good at turning a character's ideology into mechanics, I feel this RPG might be the best system suited for RPG live plays, definitely more so than any published version of D&D. I'd love to see professional improv actors use this system to craft a story. Vampire the Masquerade is a fantastic example of game design that complements world design. The blood dice mechanic allows vamps to trade failure for success on dice checks, but those trade-offs make vampires risk becoming temporarily feral at some point in the future. Index Card RPG does a great job of reinterpreting D&D as a video game action dungeon crawler, and its mechanics feel more like Hero Quest blended with Legend of Zelda, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. ICRPG is almost like what both D&D 4th and 5th editions wish they could have been, but never could achieve. Index Card RPG also has character mechanics and treasure resources for every genre imaginable, including sci-fi and Paleolithic, and all the genres are cross-compatible. Therefore, you can totally use it for some mech suit wearing Ice Age dungeon crawling. Lastly, Five Torches Deep has one of the best Dungeon Master toolkits I've ever seen, comparable in quality to Mausritter's, especially for rapid monster and dungeon idea generation. The random tables for slapping together a number of adjectives and abilities to rapidly develop a unique monster seems like something WotC should have created all the way back in 3rd edition. If you'd like to check out any of the games I've mentioned in this video, I encourage you to visit all the links in the description below. If you'd like to help me make more content like this in the future, please consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching, Dungeon Masters, and until next time, good night.